Good morning, Tree Church kids. I hope you're having a great day so far. Today we're talking about obedience to God. And I think we have to ask ourselves the question, why would we want to be obedient to God? For me, the answer is that God created all the universe. He created me, you, all the people in the universe. And so he knows everything about us, everything that's good for us, everything that's bad for us. And that is why we should want to obey him, because he is God. Sometimes it can be hard to obey. Some things in the Bible are hard to obey because they don't make sense to our human brains. For example, be kind to your enemies. Be kind to people who are mean to you. That is hard for us to understand why God would want us to do that. But yet we know that he knows us and he knows what's best for us. And that's why sometimes we have to go, I don't understand it, but because he's God, he's worth obeying. And then I know what the Bible promises is that things will be better if I do that. So with that said, I want to talk about some things that you have been obedient in to God, or things that you have not. And just let me start. So when I think about being obedient, there have been times in my life when I know God has specifically called me to do something. He has specifically put somebody on my mind, and in my heart, I know immediately he wants me to reach out to that person. Somebody I wasn't thinking about, or somebody, and so I've had an example where I haven't thought of a friend for a while, and all of a sudden I think of them and I feel like I should reach out. And so I do it. I text, I say, hey, just thinking about you, hope you're having a good day, praying for you today. That person has, almost always when I do that, the person comes back with, thank you so much, I'm having a rough day, or thank you so much, I really needed to know that someone's praying for me today. Or they'll say I've had somebody say, wow, you texted me at the exact right moment that I was struggling with something. That obedience, because when I felt the Holy Spirit speaking to me, I obeyed. God had a reason for it. He had a reason that he was speaking to me in that moment. And so I was always glad, and I'm always glad when I obey and I see why. Now, there are times when I don't obey. There are times when, let me give you an example. I had a situation where friends were gossiping and telling me something about another friend. And it was not kind things. It was things that even were shocking to me. Like, do I really believe that this person is saying or doing these things? And I kept listening. Instead of doing what God said and walking away and stopping the gossip, right then, even by listening, I was still contributing to the gossip. Even if I didn't say anything, listening to it and letting it sink into my mind so that I begin to think negative about that person is participating in gossip. I should have stopped right then, but I began to think negative things. And what happened as a result of that? I began to not have the same amount of respect and care for that person as I did before. And not even knowing if the things that I was hearing was true, but even if they weren't coming from them, and they couldn't defend themselves or explain. And so it was changing my opinion of them because I was taking in gossip. And then I went one step further. I began to talk to other people and see what their thoughts were. And everybody was doing the same thing. And so everybody's like, yes, 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 yes. I agree. I heard this. That's awful. Can you believe this person did that or said that? And it began to really make a full group of people dislike this person more over what they were hearing that was just strictly gossip. And in the end of that situation, I found out that most of that stuff wasn't even true. It was negative, and it was gossip coming from the person that was telling me that began all this was hurt. And they wanted to hurt other people. And so by gossiping, I fell into a pattern of disliking somebody that I loved a little bit more than I should have, and being upset at them when I shouldn't have been upset at them at all. So it is dangerous not to be obedient to God. It is dangerous to blatantly sin, to gossip when you know you shouldn't. It's dangerous. That's why God warns us, not because he has a list, but he says, when you do the things that I know will hurt you, they will hurt you. I know because I'm God. That's why he tells us that. He knows us. So I want to pause when I'm done here, and I want the MC to take a mic around. And if anybody has an example, first, MC, I want you to ask them for an example of a time that they obeyed God, did what God was asking, and then the result of that, how they saw that turn out good. And then let's do the same thing for a time when you disobeyed God, when you did something that you know went against God's promises. So maybe it's argue with your parents, or a fight or something like that, and then tell how that turned out, just briefly how that turned out because you didn't obey. And then let's wrap around there, MC, and finish up with just praying that God will help us to obey him at all costs and at all times so that we live the full life he wants for us. Guys, obeying God is the best path for your life. I love you, and I'll see you for the next lesson.